This has been, in my opinion, the most insane summer we've ever seen in the video game industry. Hell, probably the most insane thing you're going to see for a very long time. We've had insane things happen, with PlayStation announcing they're no longer going to be supporting physical media in 2028, Xbox having a record 3,000 plus layoffs in their entire back catalog of employees, and Valve announcing the Steam machine at a whopping $1,000 price tag, even with the entire M crisis happening right now. And then there's Nintendo. The ever-loving Nintendo, the one company that will treat you like an actual pig in a trough while they go around and shuffle nothing but garbage and slop into your actual gullet and asking you to pay more money across the board. The same company that raised prices consistently on all their devices, not only the Switch 1, but also the Switch 2 as well. They went ahead and provided a physical tax for all of your physical games, meaning if you wanted to save money when buying a game, you're better off buying it digitally rather than spending the extra $10 on top of that. They've swindled their users into believing that game keycards are in fact the future and there's actual ownership with that game keycard, even though they are selling an actual empty box with another empty case and another empty card itself, giving you access to the online license and forcing you to download it as well. Basically selling you nothing but DRM across the board. And let's not forget to mention, they were also the first ones to introduce the $80 price tag for video games, which every other company now began to then implement on their own space. Once again, monkey see, monkey do. But the thing is, it's not stopping there. We have seen massive amounts of lawsuits that Nintendo has filed and even patents that they've been trying to put out ever since Palworld jumped on the scene just a few years ago, forcing everybody to watch and witness as Nintendo does not want to compete in the gaming space, but instead wants to control the actual market itself. And that's where things get a little bit sketchy and weird for me. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, ladies and gentlemen, the actual proverbial cherry on top of pie of the video game industry. As someone whose entire YouTube channel relies on the gaming industry to do something every single day, it's honestly ridiculous that every single company has done something negative for the past 6 months. And it gets effectively worse every time. Because not only is Nintendo doing all of these issues, trying to screw over the customer in every facet possible, it turns out that Nintendo may be facing a lot more backlash than they could ever in fact imagine. Not just from their users, but also because of how they decided to raise prices. The real problem, however, though, is the fact that Nintendo is one of the main companies who was going around and trying to sue the US government over the tariffs that were being imposed upon them of bringing in their actual games and even their own peripherals into the country, which means they had to pay more money. And what did they do? Did they eat the cost? Did they say, you know what, we're going to make sure the consumer is taken care of? No, they passed that cost onto you, the customer. And that's where things in this video are going to get really insane. And the stuff Nintendo in fact has said will make your head spin. But before we get into that topic later on in the video, it looks like Nintendo also has some big issues to deal with. And it might be the fact that the Switch 2 may not be needed any longer. Because according to WCCF on Twitter posting, Nintendo doubles down on Switch 2 security, but developer Gezin cracks a universal exploit that works entirely offline. I don't know about you, but I am more than excited and ready to have a Switch 2 emulator. Not because I think it's a cool thing, not because I don't want to buy a Switch 2. Trust me, I don't. But honestly, just out of complete spite. That's why I want a PS5 emulator as well. I already have 90% of PlayStation's entire game catalog on Steam. Now, I just want that emulator out of spite. Same thing with Nintendo as well. Trying to screw the customer? Well, honey, you've got a big storm coming. That's why I'm excited about the progress of the actual possible emulator for the Nintendo Switch 2. We got the PS5 emulator running in just a couple of days already and getting into the main menu of Demon's Souls. Now, it might be Nintendo's turn. But let's see what WCCF Tech had to say and go from there. With the article saying, while Nintendo continues to double down on the Switch 2 security with consistent firmware updates, the modding scene for the current generation system by the Japanese company has hit a significant milestone earlier this month, as developer Gazine has uncovered a user-land exploit for both the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2 that bypasses the biggest limitations of existing entry points, making it more possible than ever before for the first homebrew software to run on the system. As reported by Nintendo Everything Today, developer Gazine confirmed the breakthrough on X, saying, quote, "I created the Switch 1 and 2 userland exploit that is not WebKit or save exploit," the developer said. This new exploit is different from those that have already been developed so far, as, quote, "existing userland exploit is based on the save exploit, which can be used without save transfer using Nintendo Online services. Because transferring these modified save files requires connecting to Nintendo Switch Online service, users are forced to update to the latest system firmware, which likely patches out the vulnerabilities that homebrew software may exploit. By operating entirely offline and not relying on forced code execution through WebKit, which Nintendo Switch 2 is fortified by ARM PAC, Gazine created a userland entry point that works across all firmware versions." Now, here's the thing about all of this. If that kind of went over your head, don't worry, I'll break it down for you. Basically, what Gazine has done is provide a way to actually begin homebrew emulation on the Nintendo Switch 2. And also, by doing this, not requiring you to be online with a save exploit from another file to go ahead and have access to it or require specific firmware on your Nintendo Switch 2. This isn't the first time we've seen something like this. In fact, Valve announced recently that they are making sure that SteamOS now works completely with ARM devices, just like the Nintendo Switch 1, which is in fact an ARM device. Now imagine that exact same thing happening with the Nintendo Switch 2, thanks to Gazine and his work on trying to have homebrew actual services on the Nintendo Switch 2, which opens up other possibilities, different operating systems, different games, not being tied to Nintendo's online service, not getting your Switch 2 bricked by Nintendo overall, and having the access to have different operating systems. This also begins to point in the direction of getting into access of all the guts of the Switch 2 as well, possibly also creating a major emulator for the device and system to be played on other platforms. But there's a reason why I bring that bit of news towards you today. And you're thinking to yourself, Alex, this is about a lawsuit and tariffs. Why talk about emulation and homebrewing? Well, it's basically because of what Nintendo did a few months back. In fact, they did it about 4 months ago, where they went ahead and sued the US government over specific tariffs. Because according to IGN, Nintendo sues the US government over Trump's unlawful tariffs that led to last-minute Switch 2 pre-order delays and demands a refund with interest. This was back on March 6 of 2026. Now look, let's be real. I don't get political on this channel at all. That's not my bag. I'm not smart enough for that. Sorry. That's the way it is. The thing is, though, watching this company, and even so many other companies as well, not just Nintendo, sue the US government trying to get their money back from tariffs, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The problem, though, I have is basically this, though. You see, Nintendo didn't just go ahead and eat the cost of those tariffs. No, what they did instead was they passed that cost onto you as a customer, raising the prices of their systems, their peripherals, their games, and everything else across the board, even their online service to boot. And that's, to me, where things get a little bit muddy. Why on earth would Nintendo sue the US government over those tariffs when all they really did was not even absorb a single cent of that tariff at all, but pass that price increase onto you as an actual customer living in the US? That doesn't make a lot of sense now, does it? And then literally turning right back around and suing the US government for all that tariff money that they passed on to you, and they want it back with interest. I'm sorry, that's not how this kind of thing goes. And in fact, people were incredibly upset and sued Nintendo because of it. Because according to Top Class Actions posting this, Nintendo faces class action lawsuit over claims it profited twice from unlawful tariffs. This was back in May of 2026. With the article saying plaintiffs Gregory Hoffert and Prashant Sharan claim Nintendo retained the profits by increasing its prices to offset the cost of the tariffs, which were imposed by the federal government in February of 2025 under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Hoffert and Sharon argue Nintendo increased its prices in response to those tariffs, which were imposed on imports from numerous countries, and as a result, consumers paid higher prices for the company's products. The plaintiffs claim the Supreme Court ruled in February 2026 that the IEEPA tariffs were unlawful, and importers such as Nintendo became entitled to refunds of the duties they previously paid to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Saying, quote, unless restrained by the court, Nintendo stands to recover the same tariff payments twice. One from consumers, there's that word again, you're a customer, not a consumer. Respect yourself. Through higher prices, and again from the federal government through tariff refunds, including interest paid by the government on those funds, the Nintendo class action lawsuit says. And you know what? To be honest, I really believe Nintendo is in fact trying to get paid twice, literally double dipping on the actual tariffs. They went around and raised the prices on you as a customer. They increased everything overall. They blamed the memory crisis. They blamed tariffs. They did everything they possibly could to go ahead and raise those prices to an acceptable level of what they felt was appropriate for you to pay for. You basically footed the bill for all those tariffs Nintendo paid for the government. The problem, though, is now they want that money back with interest. And to be honest, they shouldn't get a goddamn cent if you ask me. If they made you pay that extra money, why on earth should Nintendo be able to sue the government as well and get that money back twice fold overall? That tells me a couple of things right now. Nintendo may be having way too many lawsuits and their Nintendo ninjas may be pushed too thin. Maybe that Power World lawsuit was too big of an L for you guys to catch now, wasn't it? Oh, man. That one's got a sting. But it turns out yesterday, Nintendo finally made an announcement on what's going to be happening with those tariff refunds and whether or not you are going to get your money back. Surprise, it's a no. Because according to Culture Crave on Twitter saying, Nintendo says it has no legal obligation to pass US tariff refunds onto gamers. It asked a court to dismiss the class action lawsuit. Consumers received exactly what they bargained and paid for. Okay, I'm sorry. I gotta be real. If you're somebody who defends Nintendo, today should be your wake-up call. They looked you dead in the face and said, you're gonna pay our tariffs. You're gonna pay these extra fees. You're gonna pay the increased price. And you're gonna get exactly what you bargained for. Even though Nintendo themselves are gonna get that money back with interest after you already paid those tariffs on top of that, they're still not gonna give you a break. No eShop credit, nothing at all. Not in the slightest thing. Not even a spit in your spaghetti are they going to try and do to go ahead and give you anything in return. The stingiest company I could have possibly ever imagined. It's almost like PlayStation, Nintendo, and everybody else in the gaming industry are all in cahoots together to make sure you are screwed over in every single aspect. PlayStation doesn't want you to own games. Nintendo will let you own the game, in quotes, and then go around and say you're going to pay even more money for it, because if you don't, we're going to lock it away and you'll never have it again. Why do you think I want that emulation to happen for the Switch 2? It's not out of wanting to play the games. Again, it's out of complete spite for this actual company. Literally the most insane thing and greediest thing you've ever in fact seen. But there's more to the article by GameFile, so let's see what they had to say. Nintendo is asking a court to dismiss a proposed class action suit that was filed this past spring by gamers who say the Mario Maker is breaking the law if it doesn't pass on its US tariff refunds to customers. These consumers, there's that word again, received exactly what they bargained and paid for when buying priced hike Nintendo goods last year, the company said in a filing on Monday in the case of Hoffert et al. Versus Nintendo. Plaintiffs are not entitled to a rebate simply because of intervening legal developments related to tariffs. Nintendo increased the price of Switch 2 controllers and the original Switch last year, following the imposition of globe-spanning US tariffs. Tariffs described by Nintendo's lawyers on Monday as sweeping and constantly changing. A month later, Nintendo sued the US government to get a refund, and in April, gamers filed a class action lawsuit claim against Nintendo in Washington, saying it would be illegally double dipping if it made money from tariff hike sales and then from a refund. The gamers sought relief for anyone in the US who bought price hike Nintendo items between February 2025 and February 2026. Again, I have no clue how anybody can look you dead in the face and tell you that Nintendo is a good company. They're going around and just telling you directly, hey, you're going to pay more for these products. You happy? Good. Now give us the money. Guess what? You covered our tariff costs. Now guess what? We're going to take that money that you paid for us to cover our tariffs and sue the government to get the money back for the tariffs that we paid for. Wait, hold on. You didn't pay for them. We did. The customers paid for them. Why on earth should Nintendo be able to go through and double dip and then file a motion to dismiss this entire lawsuit? What should instead be happening right now is the fact that it proves that the tariffs caused the price increase. So now that the tariffs are illegal and you're getting a refund, the prices should come back down. Are they lowering prices? No, they're using every other excuse to keep those prices high. You bargained for these prices. You accepted these prices. Nobody had a fucking choice, Nintendo. Sorry to break it to you. You decided to raise the price. Everybody else had to say, shit, I better buy it now before the price goes up again, as every other piece of technology is also increasing in price because of the RAM crisis. You knew what you were doing. You abused the market at that moment in time, and you manipulated your users into going around and buying peripherals at a higher price to cover tariff costs while turning around and suing the US government to cover those tariff costs. What you could have done instead was, I don't know, not increase the price, take a loss a little bit on the actual tariff, and then sue the US government. You would have had everybody backing you up to get you that refund. Or you could have done the opposite. Hey, we had to raise the prices. I'm sorry about that. We're going to lower them back down since we no longer have to pay those tariffs. What are they doing instead? They're double dipping. They're taking both pots, and they're taking every penny they possibly can from any source they possibly can. Probably trying to go ahead and fund more Power World lawsuits. Oh, more Power World lawsuits they're more than likely going to lose. This company is absolutely absurd in every sense of the word. I don't understand why anybody could defend them just because they make the Bing Bing Wahoo game every single couple of years. And if you don't believe me, take a look at this. Average Gamer N on Twitter quote tweeted Culture Crave saying, this lawsuit never even made sense. Instead of taking it to the government, they spend their money suing Nintendo. Peak Nintendo derangement syndrome. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Nintendo derangement syndrome? No, my friend. You are literally one of the main people on Twitter who go around defending this company by hook or by crook, no matter what the actual aspect. And the insane inability for you to actually hold this company accountable truly proves you don't even care about video games. All you care about is raising your pom-poms to celebrate whatever a company does, trying to go out and screw you as an actual customer. You paid higher prices. You had price increases. You should be in fact pissed. Instead of saying, well, they should have sued the government instead of Nintendo. You dummy. Nintendo's the one that increased the prices. Oh my God. Oh, okay. Listen. It wouldn't be a problem if Nintendo just lowered the prices after everything happened with the lawsuit. That would have made more sense. It wouldn't be an issue, and then they wouldn't be getting a class action lawsuit. The problem is Nintendo's greed is so insane, they want to get all the money from everybody. This industry is cooked with dudes like this sweeping for them on a consistent basis. But there's more. With James Stannard saying this, unpopular opinion, but Nintendo is right. If you saw a price increase and bought it anyway, you agreed to the price. No one forced you to buy it. And why single out Nintendo for this? This entire thing is actually insane to me. Dudes going around and bootlicking and putting the shields up for a favorite company just because they like the video games. This industry is completely cooked. We're going to lose all of our ownership. We're going to lose actual game consoles because of the RAM crisis. We're all going to be stuck having to pay Klarna to go through and own anything at all because of how expensive everything is going to be next generation. As Microsoft, PlayStation, and Nintendo all go around and increase prices prices exponentially because they don't want to take a single cent of loss and then turn around and screw you and then blame you for everything failing overall. You didn't give us enough money, even though we asked for your money. Why don't you just give us your money, dummy? That's why they call you a consumer, by the way. They don't call you a customer. They call you a consumer because they want you to consume the product. They want you to eat it, back out, and then go around and ask it for it again, giving that company more money. A customer doesn't do that. They pay for the product, they get the product, and that's about it. There's no other transaction beyond that. There's no online checks, there's no bullshit, and there's true ownership. That's why they call you a consumer. That's why people bootleg for these companies. And that's why they get away with all this garbage every single time. I am sick and tired of the garbage of this industry. I'm sick and tired of everything happening overall. And I'm tired of every day having to look at the internet and go, oh, another bad piece of news again. Great. The hobby that I love, the hobby that I grew up with, is literally eating itself alive because they can't control themselves or their shareholders. Actual garbage behavior. Nintendo's right move should have been to reduce the price or give credit back to those customers who bought a product during that time frame in the eShop, or even a simple refund. That would have been the best thing overall and the easiest way for other customers to spend that money back in their entire ecosystem and buy even more products. When you take care of a customer as a company, that is when you earn a customer for life. What they're doing right now, though, is treating you instead like a consumer. It's time to respect yourself. You're not a consumer, you're a customer. Think about it. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, I want to hear what you guys got to say about this in the comments section down below. Do you think Nintendo should in fact have this lawsuit go through? That way they have to pay back that money to those users who bought products or games or systems during that time frame? Or do you feel like many others in this video that Nintendo should have to do a damn thing and they should be getting that double dip money instead from those tariffs? I want to hear what you got to say. And speaking about what you got to say, here's the comment of the day from yesterday's video. With Dr. Julius No saying this: Sony can keep 100% of the profits of me not buying shit. Julius, I 100% agree with you in every aspect of that comment. If a company is going around and raising prices, and then you find out they're going to be double dipping and making even more money off of your back that you paid for, it turns out they didn't deserve your money in the first place. And all they were ever going to do was put you over a barrel every time. But as always, if you guys want to see more of this kind of content though, more PC port reviews, gaming news, Steam Deck videos, fanboy content, and live streams, subscribe to the channel. If you want Discord access or emotes during those live streams, become a YouTube member. It's as low as $1. Look, if you don't want to spend the buck, don't even sweat it, bro. Just come on down to the live stream Saturday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, as I wear a banana suit and get insulted with text-to-speech. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Saturday nights, live, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, right here on the channel. Do you want even more of me though? Check out Oh No It's Alex Gaming. Link to that channel is in the description down below. A new video goes up every single Monday, and I live stream games there daily, Monday to Friday, 10:30 a.m. to around 2 p.m. We're playing Gears of War Reloaded, we're going to be playing Halo, and many other games as well. Come on down, hang out with the actual community, who are honestly the absolute best, as they make fun of me, calling me DSP Jr., and of course me dying a lot in video games and not getting past a lot of things and getting trolled by my chat. You're going to have a lot of fun, trust me. So don't forget, Oh No It's Alex Gaming. Link to that channel is in the description down below. With all that being said though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you gooners next time. Peace!